So we've been talking this morning about child abuse and how to spot the warning signs, but maybe this is even more important, how to prevent it from even happening. And there are a lot of things that you could do to kind of curb that problem.
Absolutely. You know, we touched a little bit on it, but I think talking to your kids is one of the most important things. You've got to be open to that communication. If you are scared and you don't want to hear it, then you're never going to have that conversation with your kids. So be sure you're talking to your kids.
Okay. Regardless of whether you suspect anything.
That's right. You need to be talking to them. And I'm not saying every day and at any moment, but at least have a conversation with your children about it. Okay. The other thing is we need to have a willingness to believe it's happening. And abuse occurs across all religions, across all socioeconomic statuses. It is not defined by one specific group in our population.
Because I think it's really easy, no matter who you are, to say, well, there's us, and we're great. And then there's the rest of the world, and they have these problems.
Right.
Unless, of course, it's happening to you, and then maybe it feels the opposite. But, you know, I think it's very easy to think, oh, well, it's this group, or it's that group, or it's everybody.
Yeah, absolutely. And I was actually doing a presentation at a church one time, and I had a gentleman say to me, that doesn't happen here. We have a strong community. That's a really dangerous belief because it happens everywhere, and you need to remember that. So I think having that openness and understanding that, so that you're constantly aware. But and I'm not saying being constantly scared. Be constantly aware,
I mean,
right?
Let your kid breathe.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, let them go do things. Absolutely. So just keep your mind open to it, and be sure you're talking to your kids about it and keeping that communication open. However, the other piece of prevention is know where your kids are. Know who's around your children. You know, if they're going to spend the night somewhere, know those parents. Don't just send them. You know, have an awareness of what's going on. I know that's hard when you're a working mom or a dad and you don't have a lot of resources, and I get that. But you've got to know where your kids are. If they're in a theater program, what does that theater program do in terms of background check of their staff?
Sure.
All of those questions need to be asked so that you know who's around your children.
And that leads us to the next point, which is fostering open communication. Same thing.
Yep, absolutely. And being a part of your children's lives, being active in what they're doing, knowing where they are, you know, and telling them that you want to know where they are if you're not with them. That's all very important in terms of any safety rule with your child, but certainly with abuse.
And again, I mean, you don't have to take to an extreme. You don't have to be at prom dancing with them, but, you know.
That's right. Yeah, I always see,
make sure you know where they
I'm
are.
always worried that I'm going to make people scared when I talk to them. That's not my point. I just want people to be aware. I want people to get their heads out of the sand and be aware that, you know, that this happens in our community.
And another really good one, monitor what your kid does online.
Yes, absolutely. Facebook, our kids are surrounded by technology, and more so, and certainly more adept than I ever will be, because I wasn't as a child.
Right.
So we have a responsibility. We have absolute responsibility to know what our children are doing and learning all of those things that they're doing and monitoring it and having their passwords and checking, because offenders and pedophiles do browse. They look for that, and kids that are not.
They know what they're doing.
That's right. They do. They do.
At what age, I think Facebook originally had the cutoff as 13 years old, and then I think they said with your parents' permission. We're almost out of time, but real quickly, what age would you recommend that parents allow Facebook?
Oh boy, that's
is an
it's an individual decision. I think it really depends on the kid. It's like the question of when can I leave my kid alone at home?
Right.
It depends on your kid. You know, you need to have an idea, and you will have an idea of how responsible your child is, and that's where that decision needs to be made.
Something to keep an eye on. We need to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll have all these phone numbers for you again, though, so that you can report anything that you might suspect is wrong. We'll be right back.